Good evening and a very warm welcome to all who have joined us live on YouTube for the second session of our series, Building India's Futuristic Schools Vision 2025, the Delhi-NCR edition. My name is Prachi Mishra and I'm a Senior Research Analyst at QS IGAUGE, India's first school and higher education rating system. For those of you who are joining this series live today for the first time, I would just like to give a quick context of what this knowledge series is all about. So as we know, 2020 has been a year of a lot of uncertainties, learning, unlearning, and most importantly, a year of revisiting the very idea of future that we have. So this roundtable series with school principals, directors, CEOs will focus specifically on how Indian schools are preparing to turn various challenges into opportunities to become the very best version of themselves and to achieve the world-class benchmarks of education. We will uncover views of leading educationists on leadership, quality, skill development, and various other areas that will help in making India's schools and its students future ready. Another very important highlight of this series is the research report that will be published by QS IGAUGE, capturing all the insights from these discussions that we'll have in the panel. So without any delay, I would like to invite our first panelist, Dr. Ashok Pandey, who is the director of Alcon Group of Schools in Delhi. Dr. Pandey was listed by the Forbes India among the top 100 people manager. He served as the chairperson of National Progressive Schools Conference and is the author of 3 books, several articles, and research papers. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award by Ferguson Humanitarian Foundation International USA, Advait Foundation Leadership Award, and President's Award for his contribution in education. And he's also a part of the governing body of the National Council of Teacher Education. Welcome, Dr. Pandey. It's a pleasure to have you on this.
Thank you, Prachi. Thank you very much for your kind introduction.
Welcome, sir. So next I invite Ms. Manju Gupta, Principal of Kothari International School in Noida. Ms. Manju has been the recipient of National Teachers Award, Pride of India Award, and Inspiring Educators Award. She has over 4 decades of diverse work experience, including 28 years of experience as a principal across various boards. She has been an international and national trainer and resource person with various companies and organizations. And as an entrepreneur and education consultant through her company, she has focused on developing human resources, new age curriculums, and the 360-degree development of the organizations. A very warm welcome to you, Manju ma'am. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words.
So next, I would invite Ms. Mamta Wadhwa, Director, Principal of Manav Rachna International School in Faridabad. She has 3 decades of educational experience and expertise and is the recipient of many coveted awards like Shiksha Shiromani Award in 2019 by Haryana Educators Club, Shiksha Ratna Award, Exemplary Leadership Award at International Human Rights Award, and Aspiring Leadership in Education Award. She was also awarded the Best District Principal by Science Olympiad Foundation 4 times. A very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on board. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, ma'am. And since Ms. Shashi Banerjee could not join us today due to certain unavoidable circumstances, we are extremely delighted to have Mr. Matthew Ilovich, Head of Middle and Senior School at Shiv Nadar School, joining us today on the panel. Mr. Matthew also leads the Connected Learning Program at Shiv Nadar School and has been an educator and leader with institutions in Australia and UK. He has worked with globally reputed institutions and believes that teamwork and distributed leadership help shape the contemporary education required for 21st century learners. Welcome, Mr. Matthew. It's a pleasure to have you with the panel today.
Thank you very much. And on Sashi's behalf, I apologise for her not being well. So you'll have to look at my face and not her beautiful face, but I hope I can do her justice. Thank you.
Definitely, we look forward to hearing your insights. So it's a privilege for us to have all of you with us today. So without any delay, we will just move into the discussion where We've had many debates, discussions, deliberations on the challenges that the educationists have faced in 2020. So to start this discussion, I want to hear from all of the panelists on what is your key learning or key takeaway from this last 1 year. So we can start with Dr. Pandey and then go around the panel.
Thank you, Prachi. Many learnings and many takeaways. Some of them I can list. It is possible to live with whatever you have. I think that is the first learning. It is possible to change and adapt to the new situation. That is the second learning. And the third learning is we all have survival instincts, but if we can manage our resources well and resurrect ourselves and reconstruct ourselves and lead by example, I think with collaboration and connectivity, it is possible to survive even a crisis like this. And the last takeaway, I would tell you that the people around you are very nice. And if before pandemic we failed to recognize that basic nicety and beauty in the human relationship, I think pandemic was a great great teacher, I would say. And I think we should not go back to our old habits. And the new habits that we have learned, we must carry on in the future as well. Prachi.
Thank you, sir. That was these are some things that we realized only when we faced the situation, which is completely unprecedented for all of us. So there was a lot that we have learned about ourselves as well. And surviving at the minimum of things is completely one of the key learnings for all of us. Thank you for your inputs there. We can have Manju ma'am next. We'd like to hear from you, ma'am.
Pandemic has been a great teacher for all of us and has helped us to unlearn many things and relearn. So it's been, I see pandemic as a teacher. The second thing is it has taught us that optimize the usage of the resources around you, whatever, whether they're physical resources, they're emotional resources, their spiritual resources, and their academic resources. So make the optimum use of it. The third thing it has really worked on all of us is that technology empowers. So it's not a vice, which we used to say that the mobile in the school is a vice. I say it is not a vice, but the technology has empowered all of us, and we are connected without being without being face to face. We are face to face, so we've connected with the world. Third, it has helped us to redesign education and redesign in a manner. We wanted to do many things in the education ecospace, in our small schools and in the larger world. And but since we were running, and there was no time to look back, and we were always in a hurry, this gave us a pause. This gave us a time to pause, think, rethink. And believe you me, after pandemic, the curriculums, the school designs, they will all change, and they should change. As Mr. Shok said, that whatever we've been doing in past, we should stop, pause, and this was the time to stop, pause, and think again that where are we going, where are we heading? And so many things would be rewritten, are being rewritten during these times, these 9-10 months, people are rewriting it. And to me, big or small, I have been able to train teachers, and that training, which was always getting pending, like 9 months, teachers learning, and with them I'm learning. I've missed a session with you to be with you today. So the whole story is that the learning is on an accelerated, or rather an exponential mode, and that's what pandemic has taught all of us, or given us an insight that, come on, wake up, there is another way to do it. So the lateral thinking has begun. So with this, I would say, thank you, pandemic, for the environment which has been created to correct ourselves. to put us on I would say put us on a learning path which is futuristic. So with this, I would say that we become better educators, better human beings, and let's move on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So very, very rightly pointed out the way a lot of us used to shy away from technology. Now there's no going back. Eventually, maybe some people embraced it instantly, some took a little time, but we are almost all there that, we are no longer very hesitant of technology and trying something new. So that unlearning, relearning has definitely been a key part of the pandemic. So, Mamta ma'am, we'd like to hear from you now, the key learnings from the last 1 year.
Thank you, Prachi. And I think Ashok sir and Manju ma'am have very aptly, brought in all the points. And what I feel is that adaptability, to the new changes is something that we could see in all our children and all our teachers and even parents. And change is something that we all accepted. So yes, the revolution in education was brought about, and this adaptability, this change is something that we could accept. We become more resilient, be it children, be it parents, be it teachers. We have all become more resilient. We've learned to collaborate with each other. Yes, technology is a big takeaway, and we've used technology, in a big way. So that is the one thing that, we have seen. And we've all been learning with each other. We've all learned to learn with each other. We've all learned to think with each other. And that is, it's not that it wasn't happening earlier, like Manju ma'am said, but yeah, we got more time to connect with each other and learn from each other. So yes, change and adaptability and collaboration, these are the three main takeaways from this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So yes, definitely, I think we all witnessed the kind of collaboration we are capable of, because teams have just gotten together on virtual platforms. Even the ones that might not be connecting so much earlier before have got together to connect and build something and keep the learning and teaching and all of that going in the education space. So definitely change, adaptability, and collaboration are three very key learnings from this year. So Mr. Matthew, what are your thoughts on the key learnings or takeaways?
Well, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Shashi and the Shiv Nadada Foundation, welcome to you all. As an Australian, as you might gather, congratulations to India on beating us on the cricket. I think I belong to both parties, so it's exciting that I can do that. But talking about what we've transpired in the last 10 to 12 months, I think it's been a catalyst of change. Everyone has spoken about that. And so what it should do is force us not to go back to the old ways, to think about what a new school is. What is the new normal, as we talk about in COVID times? And I think one of the things and highlights that we've been able to succeed at Shiv Nadada is we've talked about personalised learning. We've talked about the factory model being dismantled, that everyone is treated as an individual, that we can personalise the learning, and that we can build on the 21st century skills. Some people talk about them, the 4 C's, the 6 C's, but they're all about creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, communication. And I also like to add in citizenship and character. These things, I think, have been highlighted in our learning environment. And as I said, I think what we've now established is a way forward that tells us that we don't need to go back to the old way of schooling. And this should drive us to think in that personalised learning mode, not just for our students, but for our teachers as well. So I'm excited because truly this whole pandemic has made us think about what that new normal is. So I welcome that new normal, and I also welcome the fact that we can learn from this situation in a positive way. And that optimism is what drives our world today and should drive our world. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, you rightly pointed out, because we keep hearing from everyone, when will this end? We want to go back to our older ways. But to some extent, we have to accept that going back to our older ways might not actually work out in our favor. So there are certain changes that have been made and they are here for good. So if we can learn from them and continue implementing them, expanding the horizon of giving everyone the opportunity to learn, an equal opportunity to learn learn is something that we really need to keep working on. Thank you for putting it out there. So I'll move on to the very crucial point that we are trying to capture in this series, which is the vision of education landscape in the next 5 years. So we've heard a lot of experiences, we've heard a lot of takeaways and learnings, but as a school leader or as a person who is driving the change in your institution, what do you envision as the school education landscape to look like in the next 5 years? So what is that vision that you have for the school education landscape as a school leader? So we can start with Manju ma'am, and we can go to Daniel.
Maybe
I think Manju ma'am is having some connectivity issues. Manju ma'am, we can start with you and wait for Manju ma'am to reconnect. Mamta ma'am, your mic is on mute. So yeah, Manju ma'am is having some internet connectivity issues. So what we'll start with you for this question: that what do you have the vision of the next 5 years in the education landscape?
You want me to say?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. So great. Yeah. So like we discussed, actually the pandemic has taught us a lot, and we wish to continue with these learnings and take forward these learnings, in a big way. And like you said, we want to go back to our old ways. We actually should not be wanting to get back to our old ways. Yes, we want to get back to school. We've been missing school very badly. The corridors are empty and they just don't look nice without children. But yes, we do want to see a lot of change. We do want to see, a lot of improvement happening. And this can be brought about if we as leaders first, have a more human and have a more balanced approach like we've had this whole year. We've, kind of understood where the parents are coming from, what the teachers are feeling, what the children are going through in great detail. So I wish that we continue to have this balanced approach and this compassionate feeling all throughout, even in future. And not only as leaders, all teachers, all children, to empathize and to have those soft skills, have those life skills, where we all learn from each other and collaborate with each other is extremely important. Another thing is that digital competency has been accelerated to a great extent this year, and we hope that it continues. So AI is going to be a big thing. We've introduced it in grades 9th and 11th, and we hope to continue that. And the digital competency which the teachers have acquired and which the children have acquired, it has to just move on. Like imagine we are even starting with coding from our kindergarten, in their own little ways. So yes, this is something that, children need to learn to think, children need to collaborate, and this is something that needs to carry on. One thing that I saw this time was that the teachers were very, very supportive, of the students. And all kudos to the teachers. They were very, very, how they've carried on the entire session is very, very appreciative. So the support that the children got from the teachers, the online counseling also took place. So that was something really good, and the children connected with the teachers in a different way altogether. So imagine the children, when they could not meet, we used to have little cheer parties for them where all of them would sit down with their popcorns or with their glass of juice and celebrate together once a month, so they could all look at each other, that who are the class fellows, who is my teacher, and get in touch with each other. So this is something where they all came together, they collaborated with each other together. And something that we need to do is that we need to bring about a lot of academic integrity. Now, this is something that we could come on to later also, but academic integrity is so very important because children learn to take ownership of what they've learned, how they want to go about that in future, how they use their skills, how we are bringing about the United Nations Skill Development Program, in our curriculum. It's very beautifully blended from the last 2 years, and how we carry it forward. how the soft skills and the other life skills are integrated and how we take it forward is extremely important. So yes, for the futuristic schools, apart from technology, the soft skills and the life skills are something that is most important. Yeah. So it has to be an absolute blended approach to learning. We cannot do away with technology now thinking that we are getting back to school. So technology is here to stay, and we have to have a very blended approach where we use a lot of projects, we use a lot of multimodal teaching and assessment techniques, we use a lot of collaborative techniques, a lot of flip teaching happening in the classrooms, and that way a proper education system can be evolved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, since you brought up the next 5 years or even a futuristic vision of the school to have skill development as the focus, that is something that has also been brought about in the NEP 2020, which we can discuss later if we have more time. So, I was mentioning this to a couple of colleagues while discussion that there is so much being talked about for life skills, but now the NEP has actually captured this as a recommendation. So the schools at some point now will have to go back and reflect on whether or not they are able to integrate the life skills into the mainstream curriculum or not. And even at QS IGAUGE, when we developed our school ratings, we kept skill development as a focused indicator, which the schools can opt for and showcase how they are making efforts to ensure that skill development is taking place. So thank you so much for your inputs there. I think Manju ma'am is still trying to connect. So I will move on to Dr. Ashok Pandey for your views on what is the vision of the future of school education that you have.
Has
Sir,
brought out some. Hello? No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I think Mamta has brought out some of the very profound points, and that could be vision for all of us. I may add to that at this juncture, I think we are all on the springboard of change as far as education is concerned. And once we are on a springboard, I think we all need a very high level of accountability to embrace that change. And that change for the teacher would be that we had to be changing from the disseminator of information to being a co-learner with the child and facilitator, as we call it. The learners themselves will have to change as mere passive receivers and consumers of information to problem solvers. Our pedagogy has to change. The pedagogy cannot be the predictable ones. The pedagogy has to create love for learning, self-development, curiosity. So that has to come. The learning spaces will have to change. I mean, we have done for a very, very long time with one size fit all, one group, the same teaching, the same amount, the same examination. I think we have to be flexible. We have to include diversity into it, and the differential backgrounds of the children, that has to be included. And of course, the whole purpose of education itself has to change. I mean, for right or wrong reasons, I'm not going into debating that, but just to get one class to another, getting a degree, getting into a career, I think it has not served its purpose. And we have to repurpose the education for citizenship, for character building, for preparing the children to bring about societal changes. We have talked about technology quite a lot, but the technology's usage is in its mindful and transformative use, using technology for social good. I think these are 4 or 5 mind shifts that have to come as we prepare to ride the springboard of change in education. And since you mentioned about NEP 20, I think NEP 20 echoes and reflects these things. The challenge, of course, will be in implementing it on the ground. Prachi.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, as I can understand from your points, is it has to be extremely student-centric and the overall development of the
Absolutely.
student, not just focused on the exam results or graduating a class and moving on from one level to another without an actual learning outcome showcasing itself. So, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Thank you.
your.
You articulated it better than I did.
Not at all, sir.
Yes.
It was all the
Thank you.
inputs that you have highlighted. Thank you, sir. So,
Thank you.
Manju ma'am is back with us. Ma'am, we would like to hear from you. What is your vision of a futuristic school in the next 5 years, 10 years, that you see a school, what a school should be?
All right. I see the present model of school changing altogether. And it will not be year wise, it will be capability wise, credit wise. I'm being very specific. All right. Larger perspective, Mr. Shok has already, I heard him only. So he's put it together very beautifully. But I would put it like, why is it that the child has to be in one grade? I'm comparing one grade for 1 year. Or why can't I finish my credit and move on? Why should I be restricted to do what somebody else wants me to do? Rather, as a child or as a teacher or as a parent, can I take my way, my in time frames and in spaces? So I would put it credit wise and accelerated learning models and individualized or personalized learning models. And I would put it like this, that what a lot of choices would be available. So it won't be that what school has designed, it will be what child wants to do. So the student centric is definitely there, but more than that, I would put it that let me be free to learn. So if I want to swim, let me swim and swim, and if I want to fly, let me fly and fly. So the child should be given that freedom, what he wants to do, and if he doesn't want to do, let him be. So that would be the school of tomorrow, that the child would be the chooser, neither the parents nor the teachers or not the policy makers. And that would be the education or learning environment of tomorrow. So like vocations are coming up. Even if I don't do grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or I don't do the secondary education, and if I'm able to make my way, that will be the life tomorrow, and that will be the education tomorrow. So I don't believe in certification. Tomorrow will not be about certifications.
Thank you, ma'am. So I see a lot of the futuristic vision of a school having a lot of academic freedom for school students as well. We've integrated that discussion in higher education to quite an extent, but it is still very difficult to imagine that level of academic freedom coming into the school education, because we see a very structured and a very compartmentalized approach when it comes to schools. But yeah, futuristic school should be able to give that scope to the students to pick and choose and go where they feel they really want to be and not be forced into a particular class or a particular activity to do. So very, very well said, ma'am. So we move on to Mr. Matthew to understand what is his vision of a futuristic school and what a futuristic school actually looks like. Over to you, Mr. Matthew. Sir, your mic is on mute.
Oh, okay, someone put it on mute, not me. Never mind. Can you hear me now? Look, can I compliment all our speakers? It's fantastic. You know, the national policy that they're talking about is the vision forward. It's also about the fact that we're not going to be based on an assessment system that's just about exam accreditation. Can I challenge even the school day? You know, 8:30 to 2:30, 3:30. You know, what is it that we're doing in the factory model? The fact that we want to develop, and I believe, a personalised learning model, as our last speaker said, it's about student agency, and it's also about teacher agency, that students can actually develop deep learning by contributing to the learning outcomes and the way they're assessed, be it through project learning, be it through concept-based learning, which I think is a very important part. We don't want to be teaching at a textbooks and chapters. We want concepts to be taught. We want them put them in a context. And certainly we want our students to be able to move forward at a pace that suits them. And I totally agree. We don't need horizontal gradings as we've seen in the past. We can see a school that has different learning spaces, but can we also learn from the fact of our online environment that some of our students can work on online courses, they can work at home. So when they come to campus, what are the activities that they can do to connect with each other, be it sports, be it arts, be it just well-being? I think the whole construction of school, as we've seen in the past, from a set time period, from periods of the day where students move from one class to another and they're disjoint, now becoming more of a continuity, where if concepts are scaffolded through our curriculum from nursery to grade 12, students can move at their own pace. Students can be assessed with choices they make that they can actually contribute to how they're assessed. So that exam connotation can be moved. Yes, there'll always be some board exams for entry admission, but that's only 1 or 2 years of the whole school's life. So let's give our students that agency. Let's give our teachers that agency. Let's focus on dismantling the factory model. Let's look at concept learning, not content learning, that is just rote learning. And let's make this world the 21st century environment that it needs to be. Build that collaboration, build that creativity, critical thinking, communication, etc. And as someone's already said, and I'll highlight, it's important to build their character and citizenship as well. Those values underline our society, and it is up to schools to build a better world. And I believe that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. That was very well put, because concept-based learning is something that is an idealistic learning, because just to cover the content and move on without understanding whether or not the concept has been understood by the student is something that has been a big gap in the education, and we really need to bridge that. And of course, when we talk about student-centered learning, we cannot forget that the teacher also needs that flexibility to experiment on various methods of teaching and not be restricted to just taking an exam or just taking a test to understand how the student is doing. They also need the flexibility to understand their students and understand how much they have progressed and where they need more support. So very well said on those points. Thank you. So these were some of the two very broad areas that we wanted to understand your views on. I'll move on to some very specific questions, and I'll keep it specific to the panelists as well. There's something that we have seen and observed in the last few months is the challenges the early childhood education domain has faced, because unlike certain age group where they have the understanding of sitting in front of a screen and engaging in an online atmosphere, for the smaller age group, it is very difficult for teachers also to keep the lower grade students engaged in an online teaching mode. So this question I would like to ask Mamta ma'am as to what are some of your key recommendations for enhancing the early childhood education, especially in a blended learning and online learning mode where it is difficult to hold their attention for a long time, especially on a screen.
Yeah, definitely, Prachi, and thank you for your question. It's actually a very difficult situation when it comes to the little ones, and for them, to hold their concentration, to make them, be sitting in front of the screen for such a long time is actually not easy. And God willing, we all the children come back to school, and they have their regular classes. That is something that would be most suitable for them. But yes, as of now, we've been having technology-aided teaching, online classes for them all the time. And to hold their attention, we have to design ways, if you're particularly asking about how to make the technology-aided teaching interesting for the little ones, we will have to have classes in such a way that holds their interest. For example, I was talking to you about the cheer parties. Or we have the theme assemblies, where they record their little videos, as per whatever they've learned. They learn to articulate that, put it up, and we put it all together. And having the parent-teacher meetings with children and teachers along with the child, that is something that would work well. But yeah, coming back to school, I would definitely recommend to have a classroom where the resources, and the curriculum is actually designed to achieve the learning outcomes that we want to achieve, from our children, and what is most age appropriate for them. To have, an environment, for example, using the corners, each corner should be teaching the children something. The corridors, they should be having learning material displayed, their own creativity can be put up. So when the children go around in school, they walk in the corridors, they go out in the garden, or they look at the various corners in the school, every part should be, speaking to them, talking to them, and teaching them something, so that they put out questions, they ask questions, and they also learn to present what they want to present in their own little way. So it doesn't have to be rote learning, like Mr. Matthews was saying, so concept and not content. So similarly, even the little ones, for them to understand whatever we want to teach them, whatever we want them to imbibe and learn, that is very important. And another very important thing is to have inclusive education. So not so inclusive education would mean all kinds of children, even with children with special needs, even the other children, even children who are gifted, they all come together and they learn well. So that would be something that would be really, really wanted from a nursery school, or from the early years education, point of view. In our school, in our classrooms, we have 7 learning centers in each classroom, and the child learns the way that he wants to learn. So if he wants to learn while reading, or while playing with blocks, or through sand and water, or through role play, or through music and art, or through the library, so he can pick and choose the way he wants to learn. And yes, the teacher should be there to facilitate them, and we have to move on from the traditional setup to the more interesting and the newer method of learning. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, what I understand from the way you beautifully explained how to address these challenges is that interactive teaching and experiential learning should come together and give a good blend to the students, so that they are engaged enough to understand what the teacher is trying to convey, or even if they want to learn on their own, to have those resources and those mechanisms available for them to engage with those. It can be a physical atmosphere, it can be a online stimulant, but any way in which they are engaged and learning. So thank you so much for your inputs there, ma'am.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My next question is to Dr. Pandey, because, sir, you have been a part of the National Council for Teachers Education. So we've seen that there have been gaps in teacher education, especially in terms of technological training, which showed up immediately when the shift to online learning started in the COVID time. So going forward, what should be the strategy of schools to ensure that the teacher education is moving along with the time, is futuristic, and is feasible?
Yeah. So, Prachi, thank you. I think your question has 2 or 3 layers. One is, in the existing situation, what do we do? Another is, what do we do in future? And third, of course, is what NEP 20 thinks about it. I think I'll briefly touch upon each one of them.
Sure.
So, of course, in this country, I'm very sorry to tell you that the record of pre-service education is not very glorious, and we do not have much to talk about that. And therefore, we have depended mainly on in-service education. Because you see, the teaching in historically in this country has not been the first preferred choice of the youngsters. They will come as no option left kind of thing, and therefore we start with a very huge barrier to a teacher's career, that you are reluctant, you are unmotivated, you are already frustrated that you did not get your first, second, third options, and oh my God, now I have to go into teaching. So imagine that mindset coming. And then, unfortunately, you have not been given the best of education. as far as pre-service teaching education is concerned. So when you come, I think the onus is on the school leaders, that how to onboard you and how to do an induction where you very quickly overcome your past experiences, right? And then it is not 1 or 2 months of onboarding. It is a continuous process, as we call it. And you may call it teachers professional development, school based in service education, inset, or whatever name you give. The idea is that the teachers have to be learners. Okay, in fact, your whole learning begins when you take up a teaching job, right? And of course, what is your current status of learning, and then what are your training needs as the time changes. What are the new learnings will have to be brought in. Technology is one thing which has taught us that we were not at all prepared to go online, but at the same time, the kind of quick adaptability that we have shown, it also suggests that we have the capability to learn, we have the desire to learn, right? So we have to leverage these things, and we have to make a very, very robust professional development program for teachers in all situations. And for that, of course, leadership has to support it, leadership has to invest into it. The teachers themselves have to come out and embrace the opportunities. So it has to be top down also, and at the same time bottom up approach also to whole program. And I'm very happy to tell you that the new education policy is very upfront about it, and perhaps for the first time the policy has very clearly spelled out that we are going to recognize and incentivize the merit among the teachers, and we will not go in the normal linearity of promotions and incentivization. Wherever the merit is exhibited, it will be recognized in a very, very special way. But since your previous question to Mamta was about early childhood education, let me put a very, very strong red flag here that we are going to include 3 years to 6 years into the foundation years. For that, we need schools, we need teachers, we need trained teachers, we need hardcore caregivers to the young children, learning materials. The children will come to school. Almost 200 million children in India will come to 3 to 6 years of foundation years. Now, midday meals, the breakfast, their nutrition, the care, and everything will be required. And I think it is a huge task. The mandate of National Council of Teacher Education, you talk, their mandate is to prepare the curriculum for the teacher training programs, which they are doing it very earnestly. And the second mandate they have is that they have to prepare a curriculum framework for teacher education, like the curriculum framework for students is prepared by the NCERT. Curriculum framework for teachers will be done by NCTE. So I think it is a work in progress, but the bottom line is no institution can rise above the quality and competence of teachers. And as a society, we have to recognize it and we have to encourage it.
Thank you, sir. That was really insightful, because when we talk about gaps in teacher education, we sometimes do not, focus on these issues, that the very motivation of a teacher to select it as a career is the foundation of where the entire journey begins. And continuous professional development of teachers is something that can ensure that they are motivated enough to continue learning themselves before they teach their students. So that was really insightful, sir. Thank you. So bringing on the discussion for capacity development and skill development, we know the focus on these aspects in the NEP. And Manju ma'am, I'd like to ask this question to you, because you mentioned about bringing in academic freedom and not restricting children to one grade. So developing skills is also something where you cannot put a time frame on a skill, that in 6 months I will acquire competency, I will become a critical thinker, or I'll become a problem solver. So how is it that you see the integration of skill development in the school mainstream curriculum? Because there are restrictions for schools as well to follow the board mandate to complete a particular syllabus in time. So how does the school bring in that integration of skill development in its mainstream curriculum? Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah.
We can hear you.
So first thing, we need to define mainstream curriculum. So that boundary which we have given to the curriculum has to vanish. And if that vanishes, the skill development will happen automatically if we list down that what skills do we want to develop. And one of the speakers said that if we do the concept-based learning, the teacher would have time to develop, and with each concept you can attach the skills. So if the skills are defined and if the concept is defined, well, the child can develop any number of skills in one concept. You have to have that mapping done. In our school, let me tell you, till from K to 5, we have an inquiry-based learning, 6 concepts a year. And in each concept, you have various domains and the skills attached to it. So it's completely mapped and the child is free to choose what he wants to do. Like ma'am said, that there are various corners. So there are various domains in which the child can develop. So at the primary stage, we have experimented and succeeded that you have had a child to think critically, you have had the child to communicate, you have the child to work on creativity. So if you're talking about these skills, well, let the child be free and he or she will learn. Let the teacher be free to experiment, not restrict the teacher in the 4 walls of the classroom or the boundaries of school. Let the teacher be free to explore the way the teacher wants to interact with children. I don't even use the word develop the children, interact with the children. And believe you me, the skills which come up, the teachers are able to help children develop those skills, well, happens. The second, which is very, very important, and we generally forget in our schools, the parent partnership. And if we do that partnership with the society and the parents, the skill development goes leaps and bounds. So another one, that you bring in parents, you bring in society, they help you develop skills, and you forget about, I'm saying it once again, forget about the content part of it. And let the teacher be free to have time to develop skills. Otherwise, in our present education, all around, whether even if it's IB, I'm putting it that way, there is so much of content which has to be taken care that the teacher does not have the time to sing with children. Teacher doesn't have time to laugh with children. Teacher has to complete the syllabus. So that boundaries, if we kill the syllabus, the skills will come up. And that's my agenda for next year and next years to come, that how do I kill the syllabus, what you say, the length and the breadth of the syllabus, and make it deep in. Let the teacher dive deep in, and let the children also find the gems inside it, and become very future ready people. So we need to get out of whatever is existing, which restricts the skill development, personality development, attitude development, and have fun. So if this happens, children will run to school and will go back home. And I would love to have a school where children are interested, engaged, and learning too.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, I mean, I would also, if I could go back in time, I would run to school if there was no syllabus put on our heads. So I agree with what you're saying. So taking this forward,
Prachi, to tell you honestly, if I ask children, well, this is the free time, what do you want to do? They all want to run to the play field. They all want to run to the music room. They don't want to sit and learn English, Hindi, maths. So can get away from English, Hindi, maths, and give them play fields, give them music rooms, and give them freedom. So kill the syllabus.
True. Kill the syllabus is something that can become the new motto of a lot of schools and teachers, definitely. So, continuing this discussion, the last question that I have is for Mr. Matthew. You have had a very wide international exposure for school education. What are those best practices that you have seen across the globe which you feel are really required to make an intervention in Indian school education? It can be any one thing as well, if you feel it's really required to introduce in the Indian education system.
Education is a jigsaw puzzle. There are so many pieces that have to be put together to build the big picture. Can I compliment? What a great discussion. Kill the syllabus. Well, let's kill the timetable as well. Why do students have to move every 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes? You know, they're engrossed in their learning. You know, why would we tell them, no, can't do this, you must go on to something else? One of the biggest things I would say that complements concept-based learning is the integration. Let's break the silos down. We don't just learn maths and English and Hindi by themselves. They have to be integrated. Whether you're talking about project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, whatever name you like to give it, you can even refer to IB and its framework, but it is about not developing an education system that is built in silos, in learning domains. It's about not developing an education system that is just fixed on year grades where people move sequentially. It is about student agency and it is about teacher agency. I'll refer to the fact that what I've been trying to do over the last couple of decades is remove the factory model, where everyone is treated the same. Where schools can develop this personalised learning model, and I'm very proud to say at Shivna Data we're working very well on it, and I want to advertise that, if you don't mind, but it is a fact that if we can personalise learning and differentiate truly and give people that freedom to be able to integrate their learning and do projects. You know, one of the things that we did last year so successfully on this campus was have our children integrate with the United Nations Learning Sustainable Goals to develop a project of their own that was actually connected to the curriculum. So it had relevance. And that relevance and engagement is a very important part of education, the way we want to go forward. Not just, as we said before, to teach content and just to be able to rote learn for an exams, but to be able to give them the learnings that will build our better world and develop what I call the 6 Cs. So there are just so many things that can face and build a new school. But can I say, it starts from kill that syllabus, kill the timetable. Let's build an environment that allows our students with their student agency, and of course it's age dependent, I understand that can give them not just the learning spaces, but the place where they can learn, be it online or offline, where they can develop those skills I've mentioned. And I think we're on our way. I see a lot of people and I see the national education policy as a step forward. And I look forward to working with many of my colleagues on this. And I see an exciting time ahead for education. As I said, the old system's gone. The new normal is ahead of us. Let's all work for that new normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. That kill the syllabus and kill the timetable and do a lot more integration and practice-based learning is something that should be a part of a futuristic school. So thank you for putting your thoughts out there. So we have about 5 to 6 minutes left in our session today. So thank you so much for your insights, and I would like to hear from all of you that what is that one concluding recommendation that you have for schools in India that they should focus on in the next 5 years. So we'll start with Mamta ma'am, and then we can go around the panel. Just one key recommendation that you have for schools in India or for leaders in the school education domain.
Yeah, thank you, Prachi, and I think it was a lovely session. All I want to say is that we have to develop a system where children learn to take ownership, and they should learn to be responsible for whatever they do. They want to swim, they want to sing, they want to dance, they want to play cricket, whatever. They want to become an IITian, they want to become a doctor, they want to become a politician, whatever. Let them enjoy doing that. But take ownership of whatever you're doing. And when they learn to take ownership, they will do it only if they self-reflect on whatever they are doing, if they assess themselves properly. So there has to be a proper self-assessment. And we follow a system, where the child from the very early age, let's say class 1 onwards, learns to assess himself, have I understood the topic that ma'am is teaching? He just put a little tick or a cross. And or was I interested in what ma'am was teaching, or did I enjoy my piano lessons today? So the child learns to question, think, and takes ownership gradually, learns to set goals. And if we bring that into our curriculum, blend it into our teaching and learning, I think the children will do extremely well. Thank you. So that's how we want to make them, globally aware. Yeah, thank you.
Taking ownership is something that is really key in making a school futuristic. Dr. Pandey, we'd like to hear your final recommendation for schools.
Yeah, so I think Matthew very rightly said it is exciting time. And matching an exciting time in education requires rebooting the system, you see. So students have to reboot themselves, and how they are going to navigate with technology, how they are going to learn from peer to peer, how adults are going to help them is one set of rebooting. Teachers have to reboot themselves. They have to be passionate about learning, new learning all the time. And I think it is time for caring, connecting, and collaborative teachers. As far as the school leadership is concerned, I think they have to be empowering more than ever before. They have to unleash the potential of every child and every teacher. And I think it is the hands-on, and let us all come and do it together. That kind of a spirit to achieve equity and excellence for every child is the challenge of our new times. Prachi.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And none of it can be achieved without rebooting the system, because that's what we need to do to get there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Manju ma'am, your recommendation on what a futuristic school should do. Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
Ask me to unmute. Come on, I have unmuted. All right. Okay.
Sure.
So the futuristic school has to be like Gurukul of olden age. Technology can come in, but Gurukul, the philosophy of Gurukuls or Shantiniketan. So I would put it like this: that Gurukul means, let's talk of Gurukul to which Pandavas went. We have to create Arjun, we have to create Yudhishthir, we have to create Bhim, and we have to create Nakul and Sahadev. So the teacher should have an eye. So what Mr. Pandey said, that rebooting of the system has to happen. So the teachers have to reboot and have eyes and heart and head to see the finest point in a child's life, like Guru Dron saw in Arjun and in Yudhishthir, and in the same school, under the leadership of the same teachers, they had their own potentialities being developed to the extent that they mastered it. So a Gurukul in those terms, and the second is Shantiniketan, where the knowledge is free and where it's not been restricted by narrow domestic walls. So a Shantiniketan and Gurukul is the model for tomorrow's schools. And if it happens, I'm very, very sure future is bright, shining, and waiting for everybody. Thank you, Prachi.
Thank you, ma'am. It's really good that you brought in Shantiniketan as an example to complement the flaws that the Gurukul system had of being biased towards a certain group of students. So you excellently complemented the fact by bringing the approach that Shantiniketan had to be completely inclusive and accessible to everyone. Thank you for that input, ma'am. And Mr. Matthew, your key recommendation for schools to implement or focus on in the next 5 years?
Well, because our audience happens to be a lot of teachers and no doubt leaders, I would really focus on strategic thinking. You know, what is the way forward? How do you implement these things? We can talk and talk, but without very careful planning of implementation, be it the national education policy or some of the future concepts that we're talking about, it won't happen. So what I would recommend is growing leadership talent within your schools, to have distributed leadership, to train those leaders. Without the middle leaders working with their teams and being a voice, hopefully, of the senior leadership, none of what we're talking about will happen. So can I, extremely recommend that we look at leadership talent, we look at sustainability, that we look at the strategic thinking that needs to do it. I'm very proud at Shivnadata that we've developed what's called a teaching and learning council. It is only about putting middle leaders together that grows their capabilities and talks about the vision of the school and the strategic thoughts that make all this happen. Because we can't do it alone. And it has to come down to the nuts and bolts of not just the teachers, but the team leaders. So that investment in training our leaders and giving them a voice in distributed leadership, trusting them and growing them and mentoring them and coaching them, is just as an important part of developing this future plan that we all talk about. So I wish everyone the best, and I look forward to working, as I do with many of my colleagues in India. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. And yes, distributed leadership is going to be the way forward to make sure that the entire system is functioning as it should. So thank you for your inputs there. And thank you so much to all of you for coming together and having such an engaging discussion. And there are lots of takeaways for all of us to take from this discussion. And I hope we will meet again soon and continue having these dialogues and continue forming ways in which to implement these very fantastic recommendations that you've put forward today. So thanks again. Thanks for taking out the time to be here. And to everyone in the audience today, I hope there were some key takeaways for you as well. And do subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay updated for our upcoming events. We're going to have a lot of these engaging discussions in the future as well. So goodbye. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prachi. And thank you, everybody.
Nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Thank you, and learned a lot today. God bless.